financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
Most of us know how to throw. But you need to know what to throw. I'm not talking about footballs, baseballs, softballs. We're talking about those items you need to recycle. Republic Services explains it easy. Recycling simplified. 1. Know what to throw. When in doubt, throw it out. 2. Empty, clean, and dry those materials. It takes an extra minute, but it makes a big difference. And 3. Don't bag it. This makes the recycling process faster and more efficient. This is a look at the Republic Services North Florida Recycling Center. You can make this process even more efficient. By utilizing those 3 steps, Republic Services can help you become a better recycler in your home. Learn more at recyclingsimplified.com.
If you look good, you feel good. And the medical professionals here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics are here to make you feel your best. I'm on camera every week, and I have a confession to make. I'm not always confident in my appearance. Can you see my dark circles? Is my makeup highlighting my fine lines instead of covering them up? I question it all. So when I found out about the wide variety of procedures here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics, I knew help was just one appointment away. Medical Director Dr. Megan Deacon-Casey and her board-certified physicians have been using the latest in cutting-edge technology for the last 10 years, giving men and women their personal confidence boost. From Botox, fillers, Morpheus 8, and so much more. The hardest part was figuring out what I needed. Thankfully, the medical team walked me through what would work best for me through a free consultation. Come look and feel your best with the team here at Ponte Vedra Vein and Aesthetics. Visit them at one of their 2 locations, either over in Ponte Vedra or on the south side.
On this Sunday post-game edition of Club 904, we have a final score: Jacksonville Jaguars 23, the Indianapolis Colts 17. Wasn't always pretty. Some may classify it as gritty. Others may say it was an ugly win. One way or another, it is a dub, the 12th victory on this 2025 season's ledger. The Jacksonville Jaguars now have 12 wins for the 3rd time in franchise history, just the 2nd time this millennium. It's a celebratory Club 904. We encourage you to interact, leave your questions, leave your thoughts. Brent Martineau is going to join me here in just a little bit. Fresh off the plane from Indianapolis, let's get after it here on a Sunday night edition. Oh, please don't tell me I misspoke and wrote the wrong score in the title of this very YouTube channel. Of course I did. We'll update that later in the post-game edition of the post-game. And by that, I mean whenever you can access this podcast on demand and wherever you get your podcast. The final score is a 6-point margin of win for your Jaguars in Week 17 over their AFC South rivals. Welcome into Club 904. I am your host, Mia O'Brien. Action Sports Jack Sports Director Brent Martineau going to join us here around 9:15 or so, fresh off the plane, fresh off the bird from another impressive Jaguars victory. And I understand it's maybe not as impressive as some of you would have liked, to have seen. But hey, listen, ultimately, this is a Jaguars team that has 12 wins for just the third time in their 31 years as a franchise. Good evening, winners. Good evening, Dell. Good evening to Hef. Sorry, Hef. I know I butchered the title and now I can't go back and fix it. I'm going to try to. Let's see if I can. Let's see if it'll allow me to. We're about to find out in real time before we hit our 3 big things. And then we dive on into some stats and info in this opening segment before Brent Martineau joins us. I've updated on my end. We'll see if it updates on yours. But appreciate you guys hanging out with us, even if I put the wrong score in the title. Last time I did that, the Jaguars went on a nice little win streak, which they're on a 7-game win streak right now. So don't shoot the messenger. Let's begin with my 3 big numbers from this one before we get into some stats and info, which I do believe, Robert, will feature that most points in franchise history factoid from Ryan O'Halloran of the Florida Times-Union. For me, 3 biggest reasons, that the Jaguars won this football game. Number 1, Jonathan Taylor in the first half on the ground for the Indianapolis Colts, 51 yards, 12 carries. In the second half, 19 yards, 9 carries. That is the fewest in a second half for JT this season, only to week 1, somehow, some way, against the Miami Dolphins. Anthony Campanelli, the defensive coordinator for your Jacksonville Jaguars, made an adjustment. You could physically see from the first half to the second half. The players spoke about it in the postgame. Antonio Johnson told the Jaguars radio network that they figured out, hey, all right, Phillip Rivers is not even going to attempt to try to throw it 20-plus yards downfield. That's why you saw Riley Leonard step in on the final play of this game. And so ultimately, we'll play them in that 20-yard box. We do need to stop the run, which is our MO. And if we can do that and truly lock in, then in turn, we give ourselves a better chance to win the football game. Maybe that's something that they probably should have recognized from the onset, but the point is you saw a team change and alter its decision-making over the course of a first half and then into the second half. That is called growth, folks. That is called adjusting on the fly. Haven't seen a lot of that in Jacksonville in my 8 years covering this team. And so need to start with that stat. And obviously when it comes to the Colts, things start and end with Jonathan Taylor. Stat number 2 for me as to why the Jaguars won this football game by 6, contrary to what the title of this live stream may say, wherever you are watching it from or listening to it from. 370 to 204. Liam Cohen told reporters in Indianapolis post-game, quite frankly, we dominated them in every single metric outside of red zone turnovers and red zone success rate and kickoff coverage. Other than that, you go right on down the line. Total yards, limiting the explosive plays for the Colts, particularly in the second half. The Jaguars did dominate this game, perhaps dominated it even more than those 6 2-possession or more victories that they also have on the ledger this season. And so that's where I look at this one and I say that it's much like that Cardinals game, although perhaps not as dramatic a finish, although it was still heart racing. I was actually calling the men's basketball game at UNF while this game was going on. So pulling double duty, and some of my good friends over at Safe Security who were also pulling double duty, trying to watch the Jags and also keep us safe at the UNF game, pun intended. They were like, how do you not have heart palpitations watching this team? They're the cardiac cats. To which I said, this is the National Football League. It's supposed to come down to one possession ball games. It is supposed to be gritty, not pretty. And the fact that the Jaguars have mollywopped 6 of their 12 opponents in their 12 wins this season says more to me about them than any other team in the National Football League. It's why I tweeted out the stat on Friday that the Jaguars, yes, do not have the 7 2-possession or more victories that the Rams and the Seahawks currently have. However, they have 3 of those 6 wins over playoff teams. And the fact that they can also win ugly like they did today, it says a lot about this team's trajectory, in my opinion, moving forward. Final stat before we get to stats and info. Final number, I should say. These are the three big numbers, in my opinion, that won the game for the Jags. And by the way, thanks for filling up the YouTube chat, folks. We're going to get to all your comments, your questions, once Brent joins us around 9:15. Trevor Lawrence, over the last 5 weeks, 1,483 passing yards. That's about 297 per game. 16 total touchdowns, 1 interception. Yes, that's an important number, but for me, the more important number, the number 3 number as to why the Jaguars won this ball game is 1 second on the clock, and it came on 4th and 1. When Trevor Lawrence was able to catch the Colts defense off guard and able to push himself across that line of scrimmage and pick up that 4th down conversion, that for me was the cherry on top of a day in which you saw 16 pre-snap, making checks at the line, protections, adjusting in and out of plays based off what he saw pre-snap with such confidence that we have seen over the last 4 weeks in wins that the Jaguars dominated from start to finish. But in a game in which they were down 10-0 from the jump, to still see him so confident at the line of scrimmage, making those calls, not worrying about maybe they're going to bring somebody wide 9 and he's going to blow up Anton Harrison who's fighting some cold, or he's going to blow up Cole Van Lan, and not worrying, just focusing on the task at hand, confident in the pocket, as confident as we've seen him in his tenure as a Jacksonville Jaguar. That 4th and 1 play, the goal to execute and to not be afraid of that moment, that for me says a lot about where Trevor Lawrence is headed, with 1 game still to go in the regular season and, of course, a second playoff bid of his career. Stats and info time, and there's no better tweet on the internet right now for me if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan to summarize where your thoughts, where your sentiment should be with regards to the Big Cats than this one from the OL guy, who, by the way, if you're listening, great job on Twitter. I love the OL guy. He does a really good job. Good teams can win ugly. Just like I said, that 6 wins by 2 possessions or more says so much about this Jaguars team in big moments that they're not afraid to really push the foot down on the gas pedal comparatively to the early part of the season. I think also not flinching in moments like this one where you do find yourself down 10-0 early and win an ugly game in which you had not 1 but 2 offensive linemen out of your starting lineup. It says a lot to me of the stock that you should buy in this Jaguars team moving forward, because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, a lot of ways to win a ball game if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. Our friend John Shipley, who's joined us a time or two on this very program. I love this one. The Colts are 1-5 against the Jaguars with Shane Steichen at head coach, with their lone win coming in an overtime squeaker over Mac Jones in the final day of the Doug Peterson era. Don't forget when they also sat on the tarmac for 6 hours following said day. Robert, I promised you we'd have it, and here it is from Ryan O'Halloran of the Florida Times-Union. The Jaguars have officially, with 1 game still to go, so for those of you old-timers who want to cling to that 16-game schedule, for all intents and purposes, this year does compare 433 total points compared to 417, which was the record for the Jaguars in their history in 2017, 411 in 2007, in which they also made the postseason, 404 points in the 2022 playoff season, and then 396 points in their greatest season of all time, a 14-2 regular season campaign in 1999. This one from Jaguars PR blew my mind. I had no idea that this was even possible. 2 passes defended early. This tweet was sent early in today's 23-17. In case you're joining us, I know I butchered the title where some of you are watching from on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. I apologize. With 2 passes defended in today's game, the Jaguars have an NFL high 97 passes defensed in 2025. This is a new single-season franchise record. Everyone wants to talk about Anthony Campanella having his defense, having them watch the boxing videos, the MMA videos, punching the ball out. How about what they do in the air, in coverage? That, for me, has been one of the most unsung parts of the Jaguars' defensive success. And as we come at you live here on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network, there's another team with a pretty good defense who likes to turn the ball over in the Chicago Bears, currently playing on Sunday Night Football on NBC. And ultimately, that's a team that, while, yes, they lead the league in takeaways, they are 25th or worse in basically every other statistic, whether it's coverage, tackling, sacks. You go right on down the line. Not the case for your Jaguars, even if I know the pass rush leaves a little bit to be desired. I digress. From Matt Harmon of Yahoo Sports. We're covering a lot of bases, I know, here, folks, and then we're going to dive into it further with Brent Martineau when he joins us here in just a little bit. Matt Harmon, Jaguars pass catcher usage since week 15, excuse me. Brian Thomas Jr. is a borderline sacrificial receiver X role, team high 15.4 air yards per target the last 3 weeks. Jacoby Myers, now having full grasp of the offensive playbook, is the primary flanker. Parker Washington has been the most productive player and continues making plays as the main slot option, and also, should I note, leads the Jacksonville Jaguars in receiving yards. From our friend Daniel Griffiths, the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback since 2021. Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, well, you two played today. We'll let you guys, you're in your own little stratosphere. Trevor Lawrence, 23, tied with the running back. I mean, the quarterback, Justin Fields of the New York Jets, not for long. Trevor Lawrence is tied for third. He will be ahead of Justin Fields when Justin Fields is no longer starting in the National Football League next year or playing next week when the Jets face the Buffalo Bills. 2 more to go. This one's from Gus Logue, our good friend who joined us last week here on the program from NFL Pro. The Colts blitz Trevor Lawrence 47.7% of his dropbacks today, their second highest blitz rate in a game this season. Trails only week 14. They blitzed Trevor Lawrence 51.5% of the time. So that is how they wanted to beat Trevor Lawrence, as Gus detailed at Duval22.com earlier this week. Bold decision because Trevor has been elite against the blitz. And final one, and this is where we get ready to bring in Brent Martineau, sports director of Action Sports Jacks, because I've been reading his tweet on every program that I've gone on tonight, because he's the only one who could kind of decipher this for me before Kornacki tried to on Sunday Night Football. Here is the current playoff picture as of today. Your Jacksonville Jaguars would host the Los Angeles Rams as the AFC South champion. Now, should be noted, the Chargers play the Broncos next week. The Buffalo Bills played the Jets, as I just alluded to. Would think the Bills win. Chargers could lose, and so those 2 spots could flip-flop. But for more on that, let's bring in the one, the only, fresh off the bird from, I tried to make it a nice little cool transition, and it wouldn't let me. Fresh off the bird from Indianapolis, Brent Martineau joins us here in Club 904. Brent, just so you know, I butchered the title, the score initially, and so the folks got after me in the club, but listen, the last time I did that, I believe that was against the Raiders, and I know they lost to the Texans the next week, but then after that, 7-game win streak. So maybe this is a good omen, and hopefully it was a good travel back from the lovely Midwest.
Yeah, we did a story today on the pregame show, what a difference a year makes, because we were snowing in Indianapolis in January last year. Doug Peterson fired, and part of that whole experience was we sat on the tarmac for 6 or 7 hours. Kids enjoy that, 6 or 7 hours. But we sat there and didn't get home until like 5 a.m. because of the snow and everything else. So it was like the season that wouldn't end. This time around, there was weather coming in. So we got out of there fastest I've ever, maybe ever, got out of a post game for the Jags. And here we are already at home. Could be on the couch. So good news. Good thing.
At home in the home studio, hanging out in Club 904. Lots of comments and questions coming in. I haven't even gotten them to yet because I was running through all the stats and info before we welcomed you in to the program. And so, Brent, let's begin there. What for you was the biggest stat, the biggest number that won this game for the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 17?
Ooh, good one. Gosh, a weird game to pick that. I want to go to the negative first, but
well, I'll tell you this. So my 3 numbers, I led with the big 3 before I ran through the variety of things floating around the internet right now. But the Jonathan Taylor adjustment in the second half, stopping the run the way they did after that initial opening drive. The fact that the Jaguars actually almost doubled the Colts up in total yards. Liam Cohen said at postgame, and I know you were in the postgame, he said, like, if you take the red zone turnovers and red zone success rate out of it and the kickoff coverage, we basically dominated them in every other facet of the game. We just didn't, for whatever the reason, decide to, score touchdowns and decided to turn the ball over seemingly for the first time in a month. And then finally, Trevor, I thought the 4th and 1 play in which with 1 second left on the clock, he pushes forward, converts. I picked that as a number just because I think it's a microcosm of what I thought was a really good day as an operator of the offense, someone pre-snap, post-snap, adjusting in real time, changing the protections. I thought Trevor did a very good job, dare I say, of managing this game, let alone dicing up the Colts coverage too.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of numbers, by the way. I can throw a bunch at you. I'm going to stay with Trevor for a second because he was 14 for 16. So that's where I was headed. 14 for 16 until he threw the interception. And I still think, like, I don't love the situation at the end, but we've seen this Trevor before, and you got to understand this. This is a guy that really feels it right now, and he's hot. And he stuffed the one in earlier in the game. I don't know how he got it in there on like a 3rd and 8 to Myers, I think it was. But he's taken those kind of shots, and you take some of those kind of risks because you think everything is going to work. And we've seen him do that a bit. He's got to be a little careful of that. He had the matchup too. I mean, I thought the guy made a nice play on it, the linebacker for the Colts. And so it was the right matchup. Wasn't the greatest throw, he said afterward, but the idea wasn't as bad as, I guess, the result. And to that point, 14 for 16, which he was really off to a tremendous start and just continues to play really well. Now, what's interesting is after that, I don't know if I think because of the blitzing numbers that you just showed, and Indianapolis got after things, the tighter coverage, I guess, they took away some things they were doing because the completion percentage after that wasn't so great. It was like 9 of 23 or something like that, throwing the football, or 21 to end up with the numbers that he ended up with. But I still think Trevor played really well. I think he was the best player for them on offense once again. And I think I said to myself at one point in the game, I don't know if it was like the third quarter, it's like I thought they could have run the ball more at times in between the tackles. But it's like Liam is so confident right now putting the ball in his hands. And he wants the ball in Trevor's hands. And you can almost feel that and see that. But I thought he was under so much duress at times. I was like, hey, man, hand it off a little bit. But anyway, then he would fire a pass to Brent Strange and boom, 14 yards later. So, I think Trevor, once again, was really good. The stats won't be as jumpy as they've been the last 4 weeks in the box score, but they still were really good. He was really good, and he was the difference in this game, I think, in many respects on offense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You mentioned Jonathan Taylor, 70 yards, basically both games against Taylor. So the Jags defense did a nice job against him. I don't know what Steichen was doing because they ran him 11 times in the first 2 series. And I had just seen like a stat from Derrick Henry last night. I think he ran 15 times in the first 2 possessions, which was either the most in the league or a record of some kind. And then they just kept feeding Jonathan Taylor. And it's almost like when you're out of the playoffs and you got the Phillip Rivers situation, I feel like you start leaning on that kind of storyline if you're Steichen. And they didn't give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he was falling forward for 4 yards. They just didn't hand it off for like 2 possessions in a row, and they totally got him out of rhythm and their offense out of rhythm, or the Jaguars were a big part of that too. So I thought that was pretty significant from a number standpoint, 11 times. And then you look up 2 possessions later, and now he's only got 12 carries. They could have stayed with the ground game and I think forced the issue a little bit more in that first half, especially.
Hey, listen, that was the Ravens' issue last week. This week, they said, all right, Todd Monken said, I will listen to you crazy Ravens fans. I will run Derrick Henry until the wheels come off. And they ran him to great success to the point where now they have a shot still at the AFC North title, thanks to the Pittsburgh Steelers losing to the Browns earlier today. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball, Brent. PFF preliminary numbers are out. Not Parker Washington. My apologies. This actually plays right into the hand of some of our questioners and our folks hanging out in Club 904 with us on YouTube. Cole Van Lannon was the highest graded player on offense. We've already received some submissions asking for your thoughts on the Jaguars left tackle's performance today. He graded out with a 79.7. Parker Washington second, 75.6. Trevor Lawrence right behind him at 75.4, which, as we know, that interception certainly skews things not in Trevor's favor. But I am curious to see CVL so high up there, not because I didn't think he had a good day at the office, but because so many of his defenders have questioned maybe if it was actually a good day for the do-it-all Swiss Army knife turned left tackle for the Big Cats.
Yeah, I know I saw one play. I'm not the greatest guy in terms of grading the offensive line right after. Like I just tweeted out, we got Monheim in the locker room, and I have no idea if he was good or bad. I remember against Seattle, I was like, oh, that wasn't very good. And then they come out and he's like graded pretty well. So even by the Jags. So I'm not really sure. I do know I saw Cole Van Lannon get beat. I think it was early in the game. And then after that, I don't really remember much out of that. I think people took turns on the offensive line. This won't be the best offensive line game. And you know what? There's a little bit of an excuse built in there. I mean, they've obviously going with a backup center. Walker Little's playing his second game at right guard. And then you had a sick Anton Harrison really battling through it. So I guess we shouldn't be overly surprised, and with the amount of blitzes, right? And they continued to mix things up, which was probably smart defensively, given the fact that you had a rookie center. So, I don't think Van Lennon played poorly in my estimation. I know he gave up the one that I remember seeing, but I think he settled in there. I think the bigger story, I think Hainsey's going to be back next week. Bigger story is are they good enough at right guard with kind of Walker Little trying to figure it out? Where's McCurry going to be? How do they feel about that whole situation? That one's a little bit more difficult to tell, especially if you go play some pretty good fronts, which that's going to happen in the postseason or they wouldn't be there.
Matt Harmon, we hit this tweet coming out of the stats and info portion of the program tonight, posted the pass catcher usage since week 15 on the Jaguars, so AKA the last 3 games, Brent. And he surmised that Brian Thomas Jr., borderline sacrificial X receiver, although obviously, therefore, his air yards per target are pretty high because his sole job is seemingly to stretch the field. But how about Parker Washington, now the leading receiver, if only in total receiving yards this season, his second straight 100-plus yard game. It felt kind of like how Liam Cohen said post-game that you feel Jarian Jones on the field, and we'll get to him here in just a second. It feels like you feel Parker Washington, that he, the former 6th-round pick out of Penn State, is more threatening and is more imposing, yes, despite his 5'11" figure, than even the former 1st-round pick on the outside.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback with some of those comments because I actually think Brian Thomas Jr. is really important to all this right now.
And I do think he's important, to be clear too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that some of the discourse on him I get, right? You wonder how much do you trust it all the time? It's not bad, but it's not great. They tried him a couple of times. I mean, it wasn't just a decoy today for sure, right? I mean, they tried him, and Trevor overthrew him. One, I think, could have been a touchdown. I think that was an overthrow in the second half down the left side when they were going right to left. But I do think it's him he's still the guy everybody's concerned about because you can't keep up with the speed. And so he's making defenses think. He made Denver think, should we have Pat Surtain on him or Jacoby Myers? Or that changes everything. That's to the chess match. And now you open up guys like Parker Washington. I'm not saying Parker couldn't do it by himself without Brian, but he certainly is benefiting from attention from Brian Thomas Jr. And I think Myers is doing the same, and he's opening the door for guys too. So I think this thing all works right now because these guys are reliable, Parker and Jacoby especially, and I would say Brenton Strange too. But then the ability to take that top off really also has changed this offense more than people think or will maybe statistically even see. But we were talking about even before the game, Mia. We were saying, how do they feel about him, right? Like, how does everybody feel about him? How are they going to feel about him in the offseason? What's he got to prove? And I just think he's a valuable piece of this, and he's still a very young player, but he has something that you just can't teach. And Liam talks about that all the time, right? I mean, he's got speed that is a definite factor, and you have to take into account. And I think that is part of the reason Parker's been so good. Jacoby's been so good. This offense has been so good. And I think they'll keep people honest by going to him on some of the plays that you saw today. Be nice to connect a little bit more, absolutely. But he did make a couple of catches I thought pretty big early in the game. And then Parker's to me, Parker, I was thinking of this on the way back. He almost reminds me of Christian Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And
which was, by the way, that was the goal when he was drafted.
That was the design. Yeah.
He's going to be a better Christian Kirk. Like, that was the goal.
Well, I'm not even sure a better one. When you draft a guy in the 6th round, I don't know if you go for a better Christian Kirk. I mean, I don't know if maybe people had hoped that, but I would think almost like from a 6th round pick, poor man's Christian Kirk.
Right. Poor man's Christian Kirk, but also this was a player who, sorry to cut you off, but this is a player who had one of the lowest drop rates in college the year he came out. It was because it was an injury-marred 3rd and final season for the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley, not Nittany Valley or whatever I was just trying to say. Point being, I think that as a contested catch artist, that's where he is a better Christian Kirk. Not that Christian Kirk can't catch passes in tight windows, but this is someone, despite his frame and despite sometimes being typecasted as a slot receiver, he can also go up and win at levels that you don't expect someone with that frame to be able to do.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And both of them in space are just very creative, I think. Crafty is the way I would describe them. But then they're sneaky, too, because even Christian, I don't think you realize how fast he was until he could make a move and get another 12, 15 yards. The thing that this is why I thought about it, is that they're both really good route runners. really good
Right.
route runners. And I don't know how much of that from Christian rubbing off on Parker, or if that's just natural progression, or if he's always been pretty much a tactician in that department. But he is so good at running routes. He's so crisp. And that's what you remember from Kirk and Trevor when that thing was cooking in 22 and 23. So it's really nice to see. And I don't know if they thought they had that. And that was one of the reasons, probably amongst many, including dollars, that they were able to get rid of Christian Kirk in the offseason. But I don't know if they would have expected this. And that just keeps growing. He seems to me like a player that's in his zone right now. I didn't even know he had 100. Like, it didn't feel like 100 yards, but it was like, boom, 115. I mean, a lot of times this year, Jags have had guys that felt like 100 yards that were at 85 or 90. He's doing it the other way around. Heck of it, 2 weeks for Parker.
Or you're Jacoby Myers and you have 39 total yards, 6 catches, but it feels like 6 of the most important catches in the 6-point victory for the Big Cats. Make sure you guys keep those comments and questions coming for Brent, who will hang out with us for a little bit longer. Do want to get to this one from our friend Dell. Brent, 2 weeks in a row of elite corners following BT. Surtain last week, Sauce Gardner today. Number one, did we get an update on Sauce Gardner, who did exit this game? And number two, because I was calling the UNF basketball game while the Jags game was going on, the conversation of, if you take away, they were playing Columbia, Kenny Nolan, the one player entering the day in the country, independent of level of Division I basketball, 36 of 36 from the free throw line, averages 18 points per game. Point is, dude's a baller, even if it's a mid-major Ivy League school. And so Bobby Kennan said, like, it's tough because you want to take him away, but then you open up opportunities for other players. And I think the same can be said with Brian Thomas Jr. and how defenses are accounting for the Jaguars' receiving threats, because you accept basically, if Parker Washington beats us, oh well, because we just don't want to get beat by Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, and I think you don't have many people that can match up with him. That's why you're going to go put that guy on him. It always reminds me of talking to Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey, we knew he was so good, and I forget, maybe it was a Tyreek Hill thing or somebody else, but it was like this. It wasn't even somebody, I think, marquee like Tyreek at the time, but it was like, hey, this dude can really fly, and that concerns guys, even that are really good. Surtains of the world, and even a Sauce Gardner. And Gardner re-injured the calf. I got to believe they'll just sit him now next week as well. But what I was interested in is that they weren't afraid to go attack Sauce in some of those spots. And Surtain's a better player, at least at this stage, and Sauce just coming back from injury. But they weren't afraid to go after him and attack in some positions. I thought they'd maybe totally stay away. But I feel like defenses, you talk about lack of respect, I feel like because of maybe the height, weight, speed of the Parkers and the Jacoby Myers, I don't think defenses feel very threatened by them. And then all of a sudden they look up, it's 3rd and 8, and they're making the catch, and boom, drive continues. So I think that's Brian Thomas Jr. catches your attention because it shows up, it looks good, and everything else. And I think they're probably doing the right thing by letting other guys beat them. They just don't want to get beat by the 80-yarder. And I kind of get it. But again, that shows you the value right now, I think, of Brian Thomas Jr. Even if it's 2 or 3 catches, I think he's providing a great value to you.
We're getting some comments about Monteric Brown and Jarian Jones. We'll get to both of them. I do want to ask you, Brent, because we only touched on it briefly, the run game. It's something that Liam Cohen has been saying now for 2 weeks. We need to get it going again. Is today a day where you just say, because of a makeshift offensive line, the fact that we went over the 100-yard plateau, like that's a victory in and of itself, and the fact that they maybe didn't commit to it as much as we anticipated, but with Travis Etienne, 17 carries and eclipsing the 1,000-point plateau for a season, like that's a win. Like, they just accept it. We never went away the Jaguars never went away from the run and continued to be multidimensional on offense. And like, that's all you could ask for at this point.
Yeah, I don't think Liam's going to be super satisfied with it overall, but I liked it. I thought it was a step in the right direction. I don't think it's where they want to be, but I do think it was a good step. I think 121 yards, and it's not like Trevor went for 50 or 60 yards. I think he went for 22. So Travis Etienne had a nice day. I mean, he had 76 yards. I thought the big run to DJ Dallas, I thought that was a huge play in the football game. I really do. And I think followed was a Parker Washington play where he danced around the whole field. But I do think that DJ Dallas call to get him into that play, DJ Dallas being able to get that call late, that was very late in the clock. He'd been here for like 10 days and then be able to deliver that run. So that, along with the 76 from ETN to keep people honest, and a couple of big, like 7-8 yard, then 10-yard runs, I thought the running game was a lot better today, and I thought they had to have it. the sideways stuff didn't work too well, because keep in mind, there were probably 2, 3, maybe 4 plays that also went backwards in that run total. So if they just keep going forward, they might end up with 135, 140 yards rushing, maybe even feels better.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Brent. I had a lot of folks in my mentions on Twitter complaining about some of the play calling and some of those jet sweeps, especially in perhaps inopportune moments. But I also saw some folks on Twitter noting that this is the beauty of having built a culture and built an infrastructure. Even when Liam Cohen may not be on his quote unquote A game as a play caller, the operation sustains. And I think that that's a massive positive as we move into postseason play for your Jacksonville Jaguars. To the defense we go, unless you have a thought on that.
No, I mean, I think Liam was an interesting story in this game. I don't think it was his best game. I think there are less of the play calling and more of just some of the situational moments that I think are easy to second guess and be curious about. And that's okay. Like, that's going to happen. He has been very good. There's one other thought here. And again, I go back. I think we have this sometimes. We know the NFL. Everybody listening knows the NFL. We watch it every week. And yet we still think you're going into a game and you're just going to win by 20. We can't get that out of our minds. I don't understand why we can't get that out of our minds, but we can't get that out of our minds. The Jags had just played 4 weeks of brilliant football when you really look back at it. That's not feasible to sustain week in and week out. So I was kind of expecting not to be a dud, but to run into some troubles in this football game. And they did, and they still are able to win. I think you chalk this one back up to maybe it was the Raiders game or whatever one where we're like, the old Jags lose this game, right? Or the Cardinals, the old Jags lose this game. This one to me had a feel of that. And I think a lot of football teams lose that game. I think good teams find a way to win games like this. New England Patriots for 2 decades won these kind of games when they didn't have their A or even B+ game. And I think the Chiefs have been the recent example of that. And the Philadelphia Eagles don't even complete a pass in the second half today, and they beat the Buffalo Bills. That's what good teams do. And they find ways to win. So I actually think that shows a little bit of mettle today, even though Jags fans want now it feels like to blow everybody out. You get used to that for a minute. Don't get used to that. That's not the league.
No. And like I said off the top, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, a lot of ways to win a football game if you're the Jaguars in 2025, which is a massive plus heading into playoffs. And then I would also add that stat that I pulled on Friday. If you didn't see it, Brent, the Jaguars, 6 2-possession or more wins, 14+ or more points, margin of victory this season. That is second in the league only to the Seahawks and the Rams, who have 7 such games. I believe the Niners do as well. But it's first in the National Football League, in the AFC, trailing only the Buffalo Bills. And the Jaguars, 3 of those 6 wins by 14+ points came against playoff teams if the season ended today. And that's why I got such a kick out of, I led by saying the safe security guard, Mike, shout out to Mike. He said to me, he was like, cause he's watching over my shoulder as I'm calling the UNF game today. He's like, my goodness, I don't know how you do it. They're the cardiac cats. And I was like, bro, this is the National Football League. Not every, this is what it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be sitting there in the second quarter against the New York Jets and being like, all right, what time is dinner? I'm ready to leave now. So, which is where the Jaguars have found themselves for the last month.
Yeah, 5 out of the last 6 weeks, really, because you count the Chargers game too in there, right? Yep. And that was another one. So yeah, it is funny, but I mean, it's still good to win like this. That's a big deal in my opinion, because those are culture changers. Find a way. That was really my mantra after the game today was find a way. This team finds a way. Somebody going to make a big play, and you feel like it's going to happen to be a good thing for the Jaguars. And to kind of segue into what you were saying, the defense feels that way, I think, right? Somebody's going to come up with a good play, and Jarian Jones is coming up with those good plays the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no concerns with Jordan Lewis now sidelined for the rest of the season after foot surgery. Jarian Jones, steps into that slot position. And also, by the way, for those of you who have said hey, he's been playing better of late outside, Jordan Lewis would slide in base downs outside, which if you want to get Dennis Gardick on the field as a third inside linebacker, then you're going to see Jarian Jones outside. And that's matchup dependent. I would think next week against a Titans team that, actually just kidding. I don't really know what the Titans offense is. I still think that Derrick Henry's there.
They're going to throw it.
I'm like, I think they're going to run the ball. Yeah, they're going to throw the ball. So yeah, maybe you will see Jarian Jones more in the slot than you would on the outside. Point being, against a potent running attack, I think you would see him more outside because they would have Gardick on the field as well. Buster Brown getting a lot of love in the chat here on Club 904 as well, Brent. While we don't want to look at offseason just yet because the Jaguars have at least one playoff game and they have one regular season game still to go, but he is making a compelling case in the final year of his rookie contract. Do you re-sign him? Do you say Travis Hunter's coming back and he's going to be an outside corner? Do you re-sign Greg Newsome? Do you draft somebody?
Well, you probably don't re-sign Greg Newsome at this point, in my opinion. I would say at this stage, right this moment, I think Buster Brown is certainly a candidate. He's a guy you drafted, you developed, and I know this regime didn't, but now you go get a contract with that, and I don't think it'll be a crazy contract. I think that would be a good move. I think he's really provided a lot of value, and he continues to make plays in the run game and the pass game, by the way. So, yeah, I don't know how much they love him. I think they like him, though. I think they really wanted to get him on the field early. They couldn't wait to get him back. It was a big blow when he missed the early part of the year, and then they were finding ways to get him on. But they have depth there, too, so I don't think they have to go nuts. You mentioned Travis Hunter, but they like Braswell. They obviously have Jordan Lewis under contract. You have Jarian Jones. They have a lot of depth. You are not going to be pigeonholed in that area to just go make a big move of some kind. So that's why I think you keep your own, and then who knows, you could draft somebody eventually, too. But I do think Travis Hunter is a big piece of that whole puzzle, which makes me believe they don't need to re-sign a guy like Greg Newsome. I think Buster Brown has probably shown more, so again, he's kind of your home guy that you've developed, and he continues to ascend. Plus, he's a younger player than Greg Newsome. Well, actually, Newsome's pretty young, actually. He's only like 25, 26 years old. So anyway, I would say Buster Brown, Cole Van Lannon, those guys are pretty easy signs for me. Which I don't think the money's going to be outrageous, but I think they can handle it, and I think they'll do it.
Let's close with the defensive front before I get your final thoughts and send you off on this Sunday evening, Brent. We do have a couple people who are asking, and they asked this on my Twitter feed as well. Who asked Ether Dark, or who asked this one about Eric? No, it was from Cali Jaguar. Is there any word on when Eric Armstead is getting this club off of his hand? Like, I don't know what the fixation is with Jaguar fans with Eric Armstead wearing the club on his, I think he's been fine. Like, maybe he hasn't been as dominant as he was before the freak Thanksgiving Day injury, which, by the way, folks, I spoke with Eric. It was a football play. He wouldn't even tell me fully what it was because I asked, is it a finger? He said, no, it's my hand. And it was just some sort of weird freak thing that occurred. But it's his hand. It happened during practice on Thanksgiving Day. I don't know when the club's coming off. Maybe Brent, maybe you do.
I don't know when it's coming off, but I think those are hard to get off. I think it's hard to play with, too, at that position. So, it's something to keep an eye on because I do think Trayvon Walker, when he took that off and went to like I think hard cast or softer cast, I guess it would have been, and his fingers got available, I think he started to play better, and then he hurt his knee. So I think that would be a big step, I think, for those guys to be able to grab and do that. I'm not getting as much of that. I'm instead getting on Twitter, what does chalk mean? So I have that.
We are going to talk chalk before we send you off. So let's do that right now. So let's pull it up, Brent. So here it is. You are looking live, folks, at the AFC playoff picture. Tell us what chalk means, Brent. Tell us where you think the Jaguars ultimately fall in the landscape of the playoff picture.
Yeah, so chalk, by the way, means like chalk them up to win, right? Because they're the favorite. So I didn't know that was so far beyond everybody's grasp. I thought that was pretty common, but I guess I'm getting old.
Markers. I guess they don't use blackboards in school. They got smart boards. I don't know. I digress. Continue.
Yeah, I was stunned by that. I'm trying to now pull up what I said because I basically did the simulator. Don't give me credit for this. I tried to factor in the simulator on the plane ride home and give it a Buffalo loss, which they did end up losing. So here's the deal. If the favorites, also known as chalk, win next week, that would be Denver, who knows if the Chargers will even play Herbert and some guys. The Patriots, they have the Dolphins. The Jags should win over the Titans. Houston should win over the Colts, probably playing Riley Leonard and without some guys. And then Buffalo, who did they play? They play the Jets.
They play the Jets.
So we'll see if they really chase that or rest guys. I would think they're going to play that game. So If they all win, that means the Jags would host Buffalo in the wild card. So that's if the Bills lose because maybe they rest people, then the Jags would host the Chargers. The other scenario here is the Chargers do play it out, beat Denver. And if that's the case, then the Jags would host the Bills, but it's a 2 and a 7 instead. So I think there's not a realistic path to the 1 or 2 seed now for the Jags because the Jets the Dolphins, I can't imagine them going up to New England and winning. And I just don't think the Chargers care that much anymore about that football game. So I think Denver and the Patriots are going to win. It really looks like I would say the Jags are going to host the Buffalo Bills here the first week if they take care of business now against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday.
Otherwise, it could be the Los Angeles Chargers, but trending, so long as the Jaguars take care of business against the Titans next week, trending towards a second AFC South crown in 4 seasons. And Brent trending towards not facing their AFC South rivals, the Houston Texans, in that opening round.
I kind of like that. I
do. I'm at a point where, you would be the second person if I'm the first person to tell you that if you were to show that graphic to anyone at the Miller Electric Center right now, they do not care. And trust me when I say many have tried and few have gotten answers. They are truly in such a process over assignment mentality. It is about getting better each week. It is about taking care of that opponent that week, not concerning yourself with the path. And so that's where I think you could roll the ball out anywhere, anytime, and the Jaguars be ready to go, whether it was the Texans in that opening round of the postseason or not. But in the same vein, I'm kind of glad because I think it would be more fun if you play them in the AFC title game, right? Right.
Well, that would be something. And by the way, that would be back at home if you do take care of your business. So, but here's the deal. The reality is all 7 teams that are in the playoffs probably are going to go in that week 1 matchup. Or I know somebody will be on a bye, and they're going to feel very confident going into that game. And they should. I think it's wide open. It really is. And we should feel confident here in Jacksonville. They should feel confident in the building. But there are no shoulds in this scenario right now, the way this is set up, because you can make a case, I think, for all 7 teams. Pittsburgh or Baltimore, maybe not. But I think you can make a case for everybody else. So I think it's going to be tough. That's the bottom line. I think it's going to be a hard but a good playoffs. And I think the Jags have as good a chance of anyone to win 3 games and get it done. But no way there's nothing easy. I don't even think for Denver or New England, if they're playing that 2 seed, there's nothing easy. Who wants to play the Chargers? Who wants to play Houston? Who wants to play Buffalo? You could really make a case to 5, 6, 7 teams. I would put my money on one of those 3 teams going to the Super Bowl over the top 4 teams in the AFC.
Wow.
I think a lot of people would take that. If I gave you those 3 versus the top 4, would you take one of those 3 teams going to the Super Bowl? Now, I'm not here in Jacksonville. We're going to obviously think, the Jags. But I think if you ask nationally,
right,
maybe I will. I think a lot. I think you could bet on that.
In light of what we saw at SoFi Stadium on Saturday, yes and no, because I think a lot of folks are writing the Chargers and their makeshift offensive line off, but they are once again buying the Texans. I don't know. I watched the second half of that Bills game after I got home, and outside of Josh Allen and James Cook, that's a defense that is susceptible. Our friend John Shipley of Sports Illustrated was just posting about it online. And he said, you shouldn't be worried about the Bills. If you're the Jags, if you believe the team you've seen the last 5 weeks is who they are, you should not be worried, even with Josh Allen under center for the Buffalo Bills. Brent, before we get you out of here, final thoughts. I was going to say, everyone in the chat right now, we've got Michelle, Callie Jaguar, Ether Dark. They're all losing their minds about how Fox's broadcast was a love fest for Phillip Rivers. I'm sure it felt that way. Yeah, I'm sure it felt that way in the stadium. But final thoughts on the Colts Jaguars for 2025 series coming to a close with a Jaguar sweep. The Jags get out of Indy before severe weather. Smiles, thumbs up all around. We love that. And now with just 1 regular season game remaining.
Well, I think this goes back to Trevor Lawrence really feels good against the Titans, who he has coming into town, and also against the Colts. And he continues pretty much, I don't know if we're fully on to dominance, but definitely good play against the Indianapolis Colts. I think he's 7-2 now against Indianapolis, which is pretty good. So he continues to do that. I think that was a really nice win up there today. I will want to take everybody back just about a month ago and say, hey, whatever the record was, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was 6-4 at the time. And you're like,
5-4.
okay, well, you can win the Jets game and beat the Colts here because you'll probably lose to them up there and you lose to Denver. And then you're going to have to come back and beat Tennessee to maybe go to the playoffs. Well, this whole situation has now changed to, obviously, the Colts got injured and other things, but now you got to beat Tennessee at home to win the division and host a playoff game. It's a beautiful situation in Jacksonville, and now they got to go take care of business. And maybe that was the little exhale today, and now you get back to really putting your foot on the gas next week at home. And by the fourth quarter, you can rest Trevor and some of these other guys because it's a victory celebration and a little bit of a parade at Everbank as you wrap up the AFC South. By the way, we still don't know when that game is. That should come out maybe today. There's some thought that it might not come out until tomorrow. I got to figure the NFL will try to push that out later tonight in that NBC broadcast.
It'll be fourth quarter of the Sunday Night Football broadcast. But
have they already announced that? Yeah.
Sources confirm it'll be during the fourth quarter.
Okay.
What I can tell you now is the Jaguars will not be playing on Sunday night next week. I've been told less than 0% chance. And of course, when you contend that both the Texans and Jaguars, the NFL doesn't want teams that are in the hunt for the same title to already go into their game knowing the outcome of the other. They will play at the same time. So that also takes the Jaguars out of consideration for those two standalone Saturday games as well. So it's going to be a 1 o'clock or a 4 o'clock.
I think it's going to be a 1 o'clock probably.
If I had to
I think it's going to be a normal game. Yeah.
If I had to guess, considering the
So get to the bank. Let's go.
There it is. There it is. And of course, on your way to the bank, make sure you're checking out everything Action Sports Jax is pumping out this week. Brent, give them the rundown on what's coming on all the various channels on the network.
Well, we got primetime coming up at 10:30 on Fox 30, 11:30 on CBS 47. All the reaction from Indianapolis, of course. And then tomorrow, Brent and Austin show back Monday, Tuesday, Friday this week with the holiday stuff. And then the Monday, Tuesday edition, Jags Report Live at Strings tomorrow. Cam Little's our guest. And then Tuesday goes back to Springfield for Jaguars All Access at Strings. Get there early, probably. We expect some big crowds Monday and Tuesday. We had a lot of fun last week. Still working on a guest or two for Tuesday. So we'll keep you up to date on that. But obviously, we're in full go mode. And we already, just to give you a little bit of a heads up, on top of our normal stuff, we'll be doing half-hour shows at 7:30 every night on Fox 30 during the playoff week. So more expanded coverage on the way.
I like the sound of a 2 for Tuesday. So let's make that a reality. I'm excited to see what duo you guys get to Jags All Access on Tuesday and then Cam Little tomorrow. So make sure you guys go on out and support. We will be in touch well before then, Brent. Go get ready for primetime at 10:30 and we will talk soon.
All right. Have a good night.
There he goes again, Brent Martineau, and you can catch all of the coverage on the various channels of the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. It is 9:52 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, folks. We have blown past both of our breaks, and that is okay because we will just end and we'll backfill with some breaks because we've still got some work to do here. We've still got to empty the notebook. We've got live Q&A, and we've also got both the quarterback and the head coach of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's hear from them now, both of whom say that it's kind of weird in a game that is a victory to say, we still didn't do quite as much as we wanted to do. Here's Trevor Lawrence on that subject of maybe not living up to the standard and how that's actually a good thing.
That the standard's been raised to the point where there's almost a little frustration at times in that football game, even though you've come away with a W?
Yeah, a ton of frustration. Not now, I guess, because you win, and that's what you have to enjoy the wins because that's you put in all this work to win games, and it's not always pretty. And I think it can be looked at as a positive. Is last few weeks we've been in control of a lot of these games and haven't necessarily had to just go win it at the end. And today we had to do that. It's a tight game. We had to make some plays. Defense had to have some huge stops, and they did it. So I think it's all good for your team to learn and grow, and obviously more fun to learn and grow from wins. So we'll take that, and we got to get better. We didn't play our best today, but it is frustrating, especially throughout the game when you leave a lot of points out there. You end some drives and turnovers when you have a lot of momentum and there's plays there. That play before the half, throwing an interception there. I feel like I should have just made a better throw and hit Parker for the touchdown, but you give away 3 points there, give them some momentum. So there's a lot of things that we need to clean up, and I know we will.
16 echoing what The Last Dance may or may not be on tonight's program. Let's quickly hear from Liam Cohen on both the defense's evolution over the course of this game, as well as that same idea of the Jaguars still not being fully satisfied, even in a 23-17.
I think just one long drive today. Just how'd you feel about how they played?
Yeah, I think they played pretty well. They had 204 yards total offense. They were 2 of 3 in the red, 4 of 11 on third down. 0 for 1 on the fourth down there. I think they played pretty solid. We just didn't really play as well complementary. Like, we would score, then they had a big return, right? And then that sets up a short field, and then they're in a little bit of a bind there. So I just don't think we played great complementary football, as probably as well as we had been. But, man, they played stingy. They played tough to only allow 17 points in a game like that. That's huge. That was an offense, regardless who was playing quarterback, that was reeling for a long time. It was like one of the best offenses in the NFL for a long time, and they got some weapons. So proud of our guys and the coaching staff for doing a nice job defensively.
How have you been handling your messaging in terms of goals? If we have the division with possibly the 1 seed, how has that been going this time of year?
Yeah, we talked about that on Wednesday. We didn't even address making the playoffs as a team. We haven't really talked a ton about goals, about the division, playoffs, conference, Super Bowl. We have not had any of those conversations as a team. Not really on purpose, more so just because you're really trying to focus on getting better, because there's so much to coach off of every week for us. And even through a lot of wins, we're able to coach off a lot of stuff, and keeping the mindset pretty singular on 1-0 each week. That's just been the mindset and mentality that these guys have had, and I've appreciated that, and we fed off of each other.
I told you guys prior to the Jets game that I went up to Travis Etienne in the locker room and I mentioned the word playoff push. And Etienne looked at me and he said, Mia, we ain't talking about playoffs. We're talking about the Jets. And that was all I needed to hear to know that this team, process over assignment. It is incredible to think we've gotten to that point, considering, as Brent started off his segment on the program noting, where this group was 1 year ago, stuck on the tarmac at Indianapolis International Airport. I think that's what it's called. Don't quote me on that. Where they were then, not just physically and record-wise, but emotionally and mentally, those same young men, what they have become in 2025, it is a testament to the coaching and that process-oriented growth mindset that Liam Cohen and his staff have brought to Jacksonville. Let's quickly, briefly empty out the notebook. Again, I was calling a basketball game during today's Jaguars game, while also providing not just the good folks that run security at the UNF arena, but maybe some famous folks from the University of Florida, or at least their offspring, who were at today's game, providing them a view into both the basketball game in front of them and also the fact that I had the Jaguars game up on my laptop. So I was not watching the game fully, watched it back briefly in highlight form, and then listening back to post-game show, and that's how I got ready to do today's program. So it's a limited notebook. It's on my iPhone, so please humor me as we go through this. First and foremost, multiple plays in this game from Brenton Strange, that third down pickup early in the first quarter in which he spins out of a tackle and picks up an extra 10 to 15 yards. That's an effort play. That's something that I think you would have seen from that player last year. I don't know if you see it from everyone, because I think it's now being taught. And I also think that it is something innate inside of him and clearly inside of his classmate, or I guess, yeah, they were the same year at Penn State, certainly the same draft class here in Jacksonville and Parker, Washington. Point being, those are high IQ, high effort plays that are winning plays come playoff time. And so it was really encouraging to see that from him. Pass protection from Travis Etienne. Look, I know he's the reason that the turnover happened on the hook and ladder, the first turnover for the Jaguars of the ball game deep in Colts territory. But ultimately, I thought he was pretty darn good in pass protection, which is maybe why you didn't see as much LaQuint Allen. I know some of you guys have been lamenting in the chat. You wanted to see more LaQuint Allen in this game, especially with no Bashal Tutin. The 7th round pick, just 1 carry for 3 yards, obviously comes on the field in third down passing situations and can run the ball if you need. But I thought it was great pass pro from TJ. And so it'll be interesting to see how the Jaguars manage, hey, he can also stay on the field for all 3 downs, and what sort of looks that allows for them to present to opposing defenses. Buster Brown should have had 2 picks minimum already. It is the second quarter. I think a lot of you would agree with me on that one. I think I just deleted my notes. No, I didn't. I just opened a new note. We're good. Anton Harrison did get beat a few times. In case you missed it, he was added to the injury report with a illness. And so credit to Anton for getting this one out. And then last and certainly not least, the Jaguars. For everyone concerned with, the team that wins the turnover battle is the team that usually wins the game. By game's end, thanks to a game-sealing interception by Antonio Johnson on a Hail Mary attempt by Riley Leonard, the Jaguars evened the Colts 2-2 in the turnover margin. And so the world perfectly in balance. Final questions from you guys. Yes, certainly Daniel and Abrow laughing about what the Colts have become, but give credit where credit is due to Phillip Rivers, what he's been able to do. I know you guys don't want to hear that because you already heard Greg Olsen say it enough here today. Ether Dark, give Camp a contract he can't refuse. We got to keep him. Offers may very well come for head coach from all over. I do anticipate he will get interviews. I'm not breaking news when I say that. That has been echoed throughout the league and league sources that I've spoke with. Jacoby, good blocks today as well. Great shout, Michelle. Well done. Cable Fishing, how many offers for head coach we take for our defense coordinator? Yep, just alluded to that with Camp. And then, yes, the turnover battle, that hook and ladder risky play to begin with. It happens on those. Amen to that, Ether Dark. But it's the risk. It's the idea of trying it. That is something that is encouraging to see, even if the execution wasn't there. I've spoken a lot today. You heard it from Liam Cohen. You heard it from Trevor Lawrence about process over assignment. And that is where we have our last dance, our final thoughts on tonight's program. For me, I think that what is so fascinating to see with this group is that they truly are focused on the task at hand. It has nothing to do with who they could play in the postseason, who could be in the second round, who could be waiting around the corner in an AFC championship game. For the Jaguars, it has truly been Jags versus Jags, even if Jags beat the Jags at different points in today's game. It has truly been about us versus us. And I think that so much of that stems from, here we go, Parker Washington's book, Chop Wood and Carry Water, which I had the chance to read over the last few weeks, and I've been talking with Parker about it. It is this idea of you stick to your process. You stick to chopping wood and carry water, as the protagonist in that book is instructed to do at Samurai Warrior School, and is told that each and every morning, that is the first thing you must do, whether it's a good day or not, whether you feel like it or not, that's part of the process. And if you can just simply do your job each day, then you will find that discipline, that self-discipline leads to a brighter tomorrow, leads to opportunities to create and grow your own ability. And so to that point, I think that's what the Jaguars are truly doing. And it's funny because I think Parker was tweeting that out the last 2 seasons. He finally has a head coach and a coaching staff that match that ethos. We appreciate you guys. Over 100 of you on YouTube, over 700 across the various channels of the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network for hanging out with us, even though I put the wrong score in the title. Final score, Jaguars 23, Colts 17. We will be back with a midweek edition of Club 904 coming up on Tuesday. Will be recorded. Please humor me. We've got a nice little gathering over at Action News Jax, a little celebratory New Year thing. And so that will be recorded. Guest still to be determined. So until Tuesday, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We will catch